Bigfoot's shadow, but privately, in a note leaked by his daughter in 1986 and verified by county archives, Collier had written, "Something ain't right up on Dead Horse Ridge. Dogs won't go there." And I saw a print, 5 editions. Strange letters began arriving from residents of off-grid cabins in the Weed area, describing large, humanoid figures guided posthumously by their daughter. Every night for 2 weeks, the forest went silent after dark. Not a cricket. Shadow over Shasta continues to grow. From weed to gazelle, the people who live closest to the forest know the truth, even if no one else believes them.